Imagine this. You are having the worst morning of your life. Your alarm failed, you're late for work, and you finally make it out the door, only to realize you've stepped in something sticky. You rush to the coffee shop, order a triple shot espresso, and the barista, a nervous young man, stumbles, sending a volcanic geyser of scalding, dark roast despair directly down your pristine white shirt. You stand there, soaked, sticky, and utterly ruined. Now, imagine your immediate reaction: screaming, crying, a slow-motion, operatic yell at the sky. A true Stoic, however, would simply look down at the brown stain, lift an eyebrow, and perhaps offer the barista a dry towel. They would process the event with the same emotional temperature you might use to decide between the purple or blue pen. Why? Because the coffee stain is an external event. It is not, as the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus might say, up to us. And the true humor of Stoicism lies in this single, radical realization. It's absolutely hilarious how much we worry about things that don't matter. Stoicism isn't about being a joyless robot carved out of granite. It's a brilliant, ancient comedy routine about radical acceptance. It's the philosophy of the ultimate, deadpan shrugged. And once you grasp its core tenets, you start to see the entire modern world, with its road rage and frantic chases for promotions, as a massive, overdramatic soap opera. So, who were these ancient comedians of calm, and what exactly were they training themselves to ignore? The foundational, giggle-inducing joke of Stoicism is contained in one simple question: can you control this? The two founding figures we rely on most, a Roman slave-turned-philosopher named Epictetus and the Emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, both preached the same gospel. Divide the world into two lists. List A: things you control, your thoughts, your judgments, your effort. List B: everything else, traffic, other people's opinions, the weather, that embarrassing thing you said in 2012, and the spilled coffee. For Epictetus, this wasn't just self-help, it was survival. As a slave, his body, his time, and his physical circumstances were entirely controlled by others. His only refuge was his mind. He realized that the moment he decided that his master's abuse or his physical pain was not a problem, merely an external fact, he had achieved an untouchable freedom. The humor is found in the modern application. Imagine yelling at your phone for losing signal. You're engaging in a furious one-sided argument with a piece of technology over an external, uncontrollable event. A Stoic sees this and smiles a little. The Stoic, when encountering a flat tire, doesn't rage against fate. They simply observe. A tire has deflated. The process of physics is occurring. Their calmness is so extreme, so indifferent to chaos, that it becomes a kind of gentle, philosophical trolling of the universe. This deliberate emotional deflation is the first step toward the Stoic punchline. But the fun really starts when we move from simple acceptance to active, deliberate pessimism. If most self-help books tell you to visualize success, Stoicism tells you to practice Premeditatio Malorum, literally, the premeditation of evils. This is where Stoicism stops being merely calm and starts being genuinely funny. It encourages you, actively and daily, to sit down and imagine the worst possible scenarios. It's the philosophical equivalent of asking, what if the house burns down? What if I lose all my money? What if my cat decides I'm not worth it anymore and runs away? Why would they recommend this morbid practice? Because it's a brilliant psychological hack. When you rehearse disaster, two things happen. First, it strips the event of its power. Seneca, another key Stoic, believed that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By looking the worst-case scenario right in the eye, you realize you can probably survive it. Your house burning down is terrible, but you are not the house. You have a plan. You are mentally fortified. Second, it makes the reality feel like a relief. If you spend the morning preparing for your boss to publicly ridicule your performance and threaten to fire you, and all he actually does is complain about the water cooler, you leave the meeting feeling euphoric. You've cheated fate. The Stoic applying this method to a dating app profile picture isn't just hoping for the best. They are picturing the absolute worst. A barrage of hateful comments, a global database hack, revealing their embarrassing photo album, and being blocked by every single person in a 3-state radius. When they get 3 likes, it's not a success. It's a minor miracle, a tiny gift from the universe they were psychologically prepared to lose. The paradox here is hilarious. The path to constant happiness is paved with constant, deliberate pessimism. But this morbid training needs to be applied to the one thing every Stoic knows is coming for all of us, the ultimate, inescapable external event. If the goal of the Stoic is to focus on what you control, the great, final, uncontrollable truth is death. The practice of memento mori, remember you must die, is the ultimate deadpan punchline of the philosophy. It's not meant to be depressing, it's meant to be freeing. Imagine a motivational speaker telling you, go for it, seize the day. Also, you're definitely going to die. This acceptance radically reshapes daily anxiety. Why worry about what a stranger thinks of your new haircut, when in a cosmic blink, both you and the stranger will be dissolved back into elemental dust? The argument over who gets the last slice of pizza becomes an amusing, fleeting tragedy. A Stoic observes the struggle and thinks, look at these poor, temporary creatures, fighting over temporary food in temporary bodies. It provides a wonderful sense of philosophical perspective. When Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote his meditations, he wasn't writing grand manifestos. He was writing private notes, reminding himself that his royal robes, his power, and his entire empire were all just loners from the universe, to be returned without complaint. The irony of the Emperor of Rome writing notes to himself about how unimportant he was is intrinsically funny. It's the ultimate mic drop on ego. This practice of accepting the inevitable creates a quiet, powerful joy. If you've accepted that the worst thing, non-existence, is guaranteed, then everything else, a sunny day, a good sandwich, finding $1 on the sidewalk, is pure bonus. But is this philosophy just about being a cynical, stone-faced observer? No. The final, genuinely uplifting surprise of Stoicism is that all this emotional preparation is actually the secret to maximum guilt-free enjoyment. The common misconception is that Stoicism requires you to suppress emotions. That's nonsense. You can feel anger, grief, and joy, but the Stoic trains to recognize that you do not have to be governed by those emotions. This creates a psychological distance that unlocks a new, purer kind of happiness. Picture a Stoic enjoying a piece of cake. They aren't worried about the calories, the diet they broke, or whether the baker secretly insulted them on the icing. They are focusing purely on the taste, the texture, and the present moment of the enjoyment. They know the enjoyment is temporary, everything is temporary, but they maximize the experience because they have zero attachment to the outcome. This is the great, humorous liberation of the Stoic. Once you mentally surrender the things you can't keep, your health, your wealth, your relationships, your life, you are free to genuinely appreciate them while they are here. It's the difference between leasing a beautiful car and owning it outright. The lessee is constantly stressed about scratches and mileage. The owner, having accepted the car, will eventually break down or be traded in, drives it with a relaxed, focused appreciation. By cultivating indifference toward external misfortunes, the Stoic actually becomes a far more present and appreciative human being. They stop chasing the illusory happiness promised by status and possessions, and start enjoying the real happiness found in their own mind, tranquility, clarity, and virtue. They become masters of low expectations. The final glorious payoff of Stoicism is not calm, but supremacy. Pol Pot, like all tyrannical idealists, chased an external utopia, a perfect society, and in doing so, created a perfect hell because he was obsessed with controlling the uncontrollable history, geography, people's minds. The Stoic, in direct contrast, creates an internal utopia, a perfect, fortified mind, and achieves peace because they have surrendered control over everything else. The funny side of Stoicism is simply this: the joke is on everyone else. While the non-Stoic world is having a collective meltdown over a cancelled flight, a bad review, or an insult on social media, the Stoic remains unmoved. They look at the frantic chase of the vita activa, the busy, worried life, and see an entire civilization running on a treadmill, chasing things that are mathematically guaranteed to be temporary. The Stoic is the only person sitting calmly on the bench, watching the spectacle with quiet amusement. They realize that if you are mentally prepared to lose everything, you have already won. You become the quietest, most powerful person in the room. The person who smiles genuinely, not because everything is perfect, but because they have accepted that nothing ever will be, and that is perfectly fine. That deadpan shrugged, that radical acceptance, isn't resignation. It's the ultimate power move. It's the philosophical equivalent of saying, "Is that all you got, universe? Cute." And in the face of all life's chaos, There is no greater, more liberating humor than that.